What's going on, all my beautiful people? Welcome to the Culture Podcast and the first episode of the Culture Podcast with your boy. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in that is going to tune in. And if nobody tunes in, hey, it is what it is. It's kind of like my life motto. But we're just gonna actually, I guess I'll kind of segue into it. I'm gonna do a little bit of a two topic. We're gonna throw some football in there, but the first part is something that just recently happened to me. Whatever you want to call it, a breakup probably isn't the right word for it, but we're gonna be talking about processing, a breakup or someone walking away. Like I said, so this just happened to me recently, and just to give you a little bit of background on that, this was somebody from my past, and I never tried to get back with someone from my past, but this was kind of just one of those people. This actually happened twice. We did try to get back together in the past. But the stars weren't aligned then, and then obviously not now. But yeah, so, let's just start by saying that I am disappointed. But not in a place where it's changing my mind space, So, I genuinely thought that the stars were aligning, and in like a completely grown and mature way of thinking, like none of the puppy love shit, I genuinely thought that this might be it for me, like this might be the last relationship that I was ever going to be in. But, it didn't turn out that way. And, I wish her nothing but the best. And, I mean, who knows? Our paths might cross again. I don't know. I kind of just accept life however it gets thrown to me. But with that being said, we're just going to go into our first bullet point. And I feel like it's probably the most important bullet point whenever going through a breakup or something not working out that you were really looking forward to. So that's going to be self-awareness. So to me, self-awareness is, like I said, probably the biggest thing, because when you can truly, take a deep dive into yourself, I feel like that is where you can grow the most, post relationship. And so what I mean by that is, like, you take a look at the relationship. Like, obviously, through a relationship, you can always say, well, they did this wrong. They did this, this, and this. But I feel like it takes more strength to say, okay, well, they did this wrong, but did I do something for that to happen? Or how did I react after the fact? And that's not to say that reactions are bad. You're going to react naturally to things however they happen. But what did you do wrong? Sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes no one did anything wrong. It just didn't work out. That's pretty much kind of what happened in my situation. So there is that aspect. but also the self-awareness, the accountability. What did I do wrong? And that's hard for a lot of people. It truly is. It's hard for me sometimes. I try to do it as much as possible. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were talking about this topic, and she was saying she wishes she was in a 2-year relationship, and thinking about the engagement aspect, and like she was like that deep, and she said she wished she was more aware and self-aware during the relationship, but that's not always easy to do. You have the love aspect, the infatuation, the this person wants me aspects, so sometimes you ignore those red flags, and then obviously the hindsight 2020, everybody has that, but more specifically talking about the post relationship, it's like I said, it's hard to do. I think that's the biggest thing. You really need to take a deep dive and see, could you have done anything differently? And in most cases, yes, you could have. And to be able to accept that you could have done, maybe it's only one thing or two things, or maybe it's a few things, you never know. But being able to accept that is the first step. And then after you are able to accept that, you have to work on the changes, and that's something that I feel, and in the most modest way, I truly feel after each relationship, more specifically like my last 2 actual relationships that I had, I feel like I grew a lot after that, because I was able to be like, you know what, that was my bad. But then you have to actively work on those. You have to change the mindset behind why you reacted like that. Yeah, so I can get into those just a little bit. I guess we'll just go back to my last relationship, which was 2.5 years ago, which probably seems like a long time to a lot of people, and I mean, yeah, it is, but I felt like I needed that 2 years was the personal growth I needed, because at that point, it was one of those where you thought you were mature and you were ready for that, but it just so happened that you weren't. Life punches you in the mouth sometimes, but those 2 years, there was some things that happened in that relationship that were not as drastic as the relationship before that, but there was things noticeable that I was like, okay, I really gotta sit back and chill on this, and things like that, but so I'm trying to think of things. Hell, on the spot, I can't think of like what things I worked on. Actually, no. Okay, I do have one. I'm a very blunt person, for the most part, and if if it's one of those, if I see something, more than likely I'm gonna say something, and that was something that I needed to work on after that relationship, and being able to analyze when I needed to say something after seeing something, because everything doesn't need to turn into an argument or I don't even want to say a big fight, but everything doesn't need to turn into a discussion. But then also that's part of that, like accepting. I feel like I've become a lot more accepting since that relationship. Being able to process stuff better, and realize that everybody has a certain way they live life, and sometimes you're just gonna have to meet them instead of trying to take that over. Okay, and so we're gonna go on to the next bullet point, which is it's okay to lose someone. It truly is. It's okay to be alone, and it's okay to it's okay to be sad. It's okay that you may feel broken. Hell, but it's also okay if you don't feel sad or don't feel broken at all. You don't have to justify your feelings to anybody. You have to go through what you go through. One of the things, I'm sure he got it from somebody else, but this was the first time I heard it. Tyrese, the singer, he said something on some video or podcast or whatever. You grow through what you go through. And some people build that, I hate to say numbness, but they build a callus to some of those type of feelings. But like I said, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to not be sad. For example, as much as I thought that this thing that I had recently was going to work out and it was going to go, it was going to go the distance or whatever, I can truly say, and this is not from like a cold-hearted place, I accepted it in a day. It happened at night. By the next night, I had accepted it, because from my point of view, what good does it do me to sit and sulk? Because it was truly something that I couldn't control. If it was something that I could have worked on, then that's one thing. It was something that I couldn't control. I can't control your feeling for me. You can't control their feeling for you. So why dwell on that? But hell, and then sometimes if it takes you 6 months, that's okay. If it takes you 6 months, that's okay. That's part of the awareness. And then it's hard for a lot of people getting to a place of accepting rejection. That, I think that's a big thing for people, because a lot of people, when a breakup or someone walking away, like when that happens, a lot of people think, oh, well, maybe I don't deserve love, or I don't deserve somebody because people keep doing this to me. And from my view, there's two things to be able to accept that. You have to accept that some things just weren't meant for you. They weren't meant to be. And maybe they are, and maybe it just needs to be at a different point in time. Like you don't know. You don't know. Hell, you don't know. The other part is you have to have self-love. That's another big one for me. I'll talk about that on this show a lot. self-love to me is probably the most important thing you can have. I truly believe that. To me, self-love leads to true happiness. I truly 100% believe that. Because one of those things, if you don't love yourself 100%, undoubtedly, how can you fully love someone else? And I say that with, I've talked to people that, technically, yes, you can love someone else without loving yourself, but you're trying to pull that love that you don't have for yourself. You're trying to give that to somebody else. If you give that to yourself first, then you will know your self-worth, and you will know you'll know what you deserve. You know how you need to be treated, all that stuff. There's nothing that a person that you want to be romantically involved with can say to knock you down, because you already know, like, hey, I'm the shit. So either you can be the shit with me, or you can be gone. That's how I look at it. I think I'm the shit. In a completely like modest way, I think I'm the shit. And you need to be able to add to that. You're damn sure not gonna take away from it. You need to be able to add to that. And then having a support system is a big one. I talk to 3 or 4 people every day. And when I say that, and if it's not every day, like maybe we miss a day, a week, it's almost every day. And they all reached out to me the next day, because I told them right after it happened. All reached out to me the next day. And they was just checking on me. And like I said, I was disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I tried to force emotion out. I tried to cry. But it just didn't happen. And that's okay. Like I said, that is okay. But to have those people to check on you, to make sure you're all right. Like I said, and it all comes in a different capacity. Maybe you don't have people, and then that's another thing to where that self-love comes in. If you don't have people and have the support system, then that self-love is even more important, because if you don't have anybody, it has to be all here and here. It has to be, because if you don't have that self-love, then that you start to have that doubt creep into your head, and then that's just gonna sit there. And I truly don't wish that on anybody, to have them doubt themselves. I wish happiness on everybody. So let's go back over some notes and see if I have anything more for you. That is pretty much, I think that's really it for me on that. I wish I could have talked a little bit longer on it. But I feel like I got in depth a little bit. So now we are going to move on to football. And I know this is pretty late in the game, in the free agency stuff, but obviously this is my first podcast. I wasn't able to react earlier, so I'm just gonna go through some signings. Just to let you know, for those of you who don't know, we're Chargers fans over here. So take that, take that how you want to take it. So I'm gonna be loyal to the Chargers, but also, I'm a football fanatic. So I know a little bit about every team. I know at least a little bit about a lot of players. So, I'm just gonna go down the list, and we're just gonna go through some. I'll try to touch on as many players as possible with, contracts and whatnot. So I think this is assigned by the dollar amounts, or this is ordered by like the dollar amounts of deals. So we'll just start at the top. Trent Williams. Probably the best left tackle in football. That's a lot of money, but you can't afford to make him walk. I'm a big Trent Williams fan. I'm glad that he did not go to Kansas City. I would have been hot. But yeah, I thought that was a good deal to keep him. The next highest one, which is for me, Bud Dupree, 5 years, $82 million. That's a lot of cash for somebody coming off I want to say tore his ACL or tore his Achilles or something like that. Yeah, that's a lot of cash. I mean, he has steadily improved since he's been drafted. But yeah, that's a lot of money. But also Tennessee, they need pass rushers. They got Harold Landry. They got him over there, but he's kind of like that number 2 rusher. So they need somebody else to put some pressure on over there. Next is Joe Thuney, which he was kind of like my 1B for the Chargers, who I wanted them to sign. But obviously he goes to Kansas City. I don't remember who their left guard was at the start of the year. Maybe it was Osemele. I think he might have played right. But that's a good sign. He's probably the second or third best left guard in football. So that's obviously an upgrade over whoever the hell they had. We got Kenny Galladay. He's a solid receiver. I like him. Big playmaker. And those jump. I don't want to say jump ball specialist because he can do everything. He is a number 1 receiver. Him going to New York. I don't know how that's gonna work out because I think they need to move on from Danny Dimes. So yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work out. But a good player. Shaq Barrett, obviously, he has developed into a really good player. If you guys didn't know anything about him, before the Bucks, because I think his first season with the Bucks, that was his 20 sack season, so he was just like broke out. But he was undrafted. He was sitting behind Von Miller. So he got to learn from him, and he just couldn't get PT, obviously, because Von Miller's been one of the best in the game for 10 years. I don't remember when he got drafted, 10 or 11, something like that. So it was cool to see him get paid. I mean, he's gotten franchise tags, so he was still getting paid. But yeah. So then we got Corey Linsley. Boy came to the Chargers. And we haven't had. Okay, Mike Pouncey was a good signing when it happened, but he was just getting old and injured. No, I fuck with Mike Pouncey, but he was getting old and injured. But I'm glad he got to retire. He gets to chill. Him and his brother retired at the same time. That was dope. But before him, we hadn't had a good center since Nick Hardwick retired, which was Shit, I don't even too long ago. Trey Hendrickson, 4 years, $60 million. We're gonna see how that one plays out. I'm kind of indifferent on that. I feel like that's probably a little bit more money than he should have got paid. I mean, you know, he is the opposite of Cam Jordan. All the focus is gonna be on Cam Jordan. So yeah, we'll just see how that one plays out. Matt Judon going to New England. That's their typical type of hybrid defender. He can do a little bit of everything. Johnny Smith going to New England. I like that. I thought Hunter Henry was gonna walk for the Chargers, and that was probably like my next person that I wanted to come to LA. And then Hunter Henry went to the Patriots also, which that hurt me a little bit because I can't stand the damn Patriots. We got Carl Lawson to the Jets. I like that. I like Carl Lawson coming out of Auburn, and I don't remember what. I think he got drafted second round, third round. I think he slipped a little bit, but I thought he was a beast at Auburn. Okay, William Jackson. I thought that was another one that I would have liked to see come to the Chargers. He ended up going to Washington. He kind of had a bumpy start to the start of his career, but he's one of those like slowly progressed and was one of the better corners this last year. Shaq Griffin from the Seahawks. To me, that was a bit of a reach. I didn't think he was gonna get. I'm getting 13 a year, 13.3 a year, and he went to a Pro Bowl as an alternate. So I can't. I mean, the Pro Bowl nonetheless, but he was one of those that a couple people sat out, and so that's why he went. I mean, he's a decent corner. I don't feel like I would even classify him as like a good corner. And maybe he's a good corner, and just not a great corner. Then Adoree Jackson, I don't know shit about what's going on in Tennessee, but Adoree Jackson being cut, when he got cut, I was like, oh hell yeah, we got to bring him in. And he ended up going to New York. One of his old teammates, secondary mates, Logan Ryan, he was there. I think that's kind of what swung him that way. I talked about Hunter Henry, Corey Davis. Never really lived up to his draft status. He got drafted like 5th overall, but he's a solid receiver. He's a good, probably number 2 receiver. And if you he's either a good number 2 receiver or an elite number 3 receiver, which that doesn't make sense that I use elite and number 3, but if he's your 3rd best receiver, then your receiving core is stacked. Romeo Okwara, a lot of people probably don't know about him. He's a decent little pass rusher. He stayed in Detroit. Rayshawn Jenkins from the Chargers. 2 years ago, he had a really good year. Last year was kind of he regressed a little bit. But he went to Jacksonville. He got paid. He was like a 5th round pick when we drafted him a couple years ago. So I'm happy that he got some moolah. Curtis Samuel, that was I like. It's probably one of my favorite signings. Curtis Samuel to the football team. He's one of those kind of like gadget receivers. He can play some running back. He's gonna go in motion, do all that stuff. Terry McLaurin, he's a dog out there. So I feel like it's a good complimentary piece. John Johnson, another person that I wanted to come to the Chargers because he's a baller. He's one of those, he's one of those hybrid, linebacker safety types. But he can do it all, And I feel like he would have been a solid piece alongside Derwin James. If Derwin James' ass can stay healthy, then he would have been a good piece. But, going to Cleveland, he was cheap. I thought he was going to get at least $3-4 million a year more than what he did. Let's go kind of rapid fire because there's a lot of damn people. Ronald Darby to Denver. He got 3 years, $30 million. I didn't know that. He's kind of been up and down in his career. JJ Watt, I don't know how you let the heart of Houston go. That shit don't make any sense to me. But also, listening to him and Andre Johnson, I would assume he knew it was time to bounce. Yannick Ngakoue to Las Vegas, 2 years, $26 million. We'll see if he can, produce. $13 million right now for a pass rusher. If he gets you 10 sacks, he outperforms at $13 million in my eyes, because shit, the Raiders, they need somebody to be getting 10 sacks a year. These are kind of, I'm just trying to go down this list. A lot of, rotational players. Mike Hilton, cool little corner. Get to fill the void of William Jackson, Jalen Mills. He got way more money than I thought he was going to get for the Patriots. Roy Robertson Harris. He's a cool little D tackle. I would have liked him to be a rotational D tackle for us. Kevin Zeitler. I like that going to Baltimore. I feel like they've been like churning through offensive linemen. Just kind of like one leaves, they bring another good one in. Tyus Bowser, good piece for Baltimore. Nelson Aguilar, he shouldn't have been drafted in the first round when he was drafted by the Eagles. For all my Eagles fans out there, but I feel like he's been decent. And then last year with Las Vegas, he had a good year, so he got a little bit of money. Chidobe Awuzie, another one, because we need corners in LA. I would have liked to see him come here. He went also to Cincy to fill William Jackson. Matt Filer from Pittsburgh came to LA. A good to like above average, Was he gonna play left guard, right guard? I think he's gonna play left guard for us. So Dalvin Tomlinson went to Minnesota. Good little run stuffer. David Andrews stayed in New England. One of the better centers in the league. Carlos Dunlap stayed in Seattle. Jordan Lewis stayed in Dallas. And, I feel like those are good players to keep. Kyle Van Noy, which is one of those weird things. He got cut. He signed a 4-year, $50-something million deal last year for Miami. Got cut this year and then went back to New England. Let's go. Kenyon Drake going to Las Vegas. They signed him to a 2-year, $11 million. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're paying $5 million to a backup running back, that shit don't make a lot of sense to me. Will Fuller going to Miami. We'll see how that plays out. I'm a Will Fuller fan. So, we'll see how he works with Tua. Chris Carson staying in Seattle. And shout out to my boy Carlo. He's the only Seattle fan I know. Die hard. But it's a decent little contract. Fitzmagic going to Washington. Fitzmagic's cool to me, that's really all I can say about him. He's cool. Let's see if they go up and trade up for a quarterback. I don't think they will, but shit. I don't know that much, so don't take me for anything. Andy Dalton going to Chicago. If any Chicago fan happens to listen to this, I'm sorry. That's all I'm gonna say. Kyle Fuller getting cut from Chicago going to Denver, that shit was crazy to me. I know I've said this about like almost every corner on this list. That was one when he got cut, I was like, oh, he has to come to LA. He ended up going to Denver. His best year as a pro was with the head coach of Denver. So, you know, that's understandable. Jadeveon Clowney just signed yesterday with Cleveland. I thought that was a good signing. I didn't know he was going to get that damn much money because, hell, he hasn't had a sack in 3 years. Yeah, I mean, he's very disruptive, but you get paid for sacks. Juju staying in Pitt. He's going to leave next year, I assume, unless they sign him to a long-term deal, you know, during the season, which I don't know. I don't know how all that stuff works, but, you know, let me see. Patrick Peterson went to Minnesota. He's just kind of slowly declined for like the last few years. Kind of disappointed. He's one of my favorite corners. Hassan Reddick going to Carolina. They gave him $8 million a year, and to me, unless they put him off ball completely, he's going to be a rotational pass rusher. I don't know why you give a rotational pass rusher $8 million a year. No, a lot of these are just kind of like maybe slightly above replacement level starters, or just, you know, rotational pieces. I mean, and I like some of these. I mean, go through Gerald Everett going to Seattle. I like that one. Jamal Williams going to Detroit. I don't know why they did that. They already had 3 running backs on the roster. Jaron Reed, shout out to the KC people. Jaron Reed going to KC, I think is going to be huge for you guys. Putting him next to Chris Jones, I feel like that's going to be a good duo, because to me, Jaron Reed needs somebody else to be disruptive in order for him to be more disruptive. But he's a good, solid player. Oh shit. Okay. Sammy Watkins going to Baltimore. I don't know. I don't love that. I don't dislike it. I'm kind of indifferent on it. We'll see if he brings anything to the table for them. Deshaun Jackson going to LA for 4.5. I feel like that's a good one. Chargers bringing in Jared Cook to replace Hunter Henry. Not as good of a blocker, but, you know, he's a good pass catcher. So, you know, I'll take it. Anything for Justin Herbert. Keanu Neal going to Dallas. I thought that was a good deal for him. $4 million. You know, he's regressed a little bit because his first 2 years he was one of the better safeties in the game. Yeah. Oh, damn. Leonard Fournette staying in Tampa. I like that. Desmond King, he was drafted by the Chargers. And, you know, he was a little salty last year. He didn't get a lot of playing time, and we traded him, which we should have just gave him more playing time because he's a baller. Went to Houston on a 1-year deal. Isaac Rochelle, I actually met him. Cool ass dude. We drafted him a few years ago. He went to Indy, so I'm happy he got some bread because he was like a 7th round pick. Mark Ingram to Houston. I'm concerned about what's going on in Houston, but like all these players that they brought on for like 1-year deals, I'm kind of intrigued to see what they're gonna do with that. James Conner just signed to Arizona. I think he'll be a good little rotational piece for them. Yeah, I mean that's it. The rest of these guys are just kind of rotation players. Sidney Jones, you know, he was supposed to be like one of the best cornerbacks in his class coming out. Then he tore his Achilles. I don't know if he's like still working his way back or whatever. Yeah, that's gonna be it. All the rest of these guys are gonna be rotational, like replacement level guys. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap up the show today because I actually have to get going for work. But you know, thank you guys for tuning in. You know, leave a comment, hit me up if there's anything that you would like for me to talk about. I mean, you know, I have my list and whatnot of stuff that I wanna cover. But yeah, I mean, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna be doing this, like I said, in the intro, every other week. This first month is gonna be a little, you know, chopped, because I'm gonna do one. So 2 weeks from now, I'll do one on that Wednesday, and then I'll do one for the draft, and then I'm actually gonna be doing one at an event. So you know, it's just gonna be kind of crazy this first of the month, but you know, wouldn't have it any other way. That's what life is. So you know, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.